Now, let's talk to John Lott, who joins us live from Washington, who supports the gun lobby in the U.S. John Lott, first of all, what did you make of those extraordinary pictures of perhaps we think maybe 500,000 young people marching on Washington and perhaps many millions of others in other U.S. cities and around the world?
Can I make a comment first? I mean, calling me with the gun lobby, I mean, that's just absurd. I mean, I want to go and reduce violence. The question is, how do you reduce violence? Are the types of rules that are being put forward, like the #1 proposal that they have today is background checks on private transfers of guns. Can you name me one mass public shooting that would have been stopped this century if that type of law had been in effect? No, because there hasn't been any. So to go and say that some people want to go and reduce violence and I'm somehow with the gun lobby is absurd. My group, the Crime Prevention Research Center, people can find out more at crimeresearch.org. We have academics from across the country who are experts from Harvard, University of Chicago, the Wharton Business School, University of Michigan, people who are experts on crime who want to try to go and save lives. So the thing that's incredibly frustrating to me is that the types of proposals that are being put forward here wouldn't stop these attacks, wouldn't have anything to do with them. And yet somehow this is being put forward as they care. Well, I care, but I want to try to do things that would actually matter.
One of the speakers on the stage today, perhaps too young to vote, said that, and I quote, today was the start of change. It is, isn't it? I mean, don't you sense that you're on the back foot?
Well, look, I mean, I want to have change too. But again, the question is, let's do something that matters. So look, where do all these attacks occur? Where have all the mass public shootings in Florida taken place, as well as the school shooting? They've all occurred in places where guns were banned, where general citizens aren't allowed to have guns for protection. You look in the United States generally, over 98% of the mass public shootings in the United States since 1950 have taken place time after time after time in places where you have these gun-free zones. These killers may be crazy in some sense, but they're not stupid. They purposely, if you read their diaries, if you look at the videos and other things that they've left, time after time, they explain why they pick their targets, and they pick their targets to go and kill as many people as possible. And they'll say explicitly that if they go to a place where people can't defend themselves, they're going to be able to go and kill more people. You look at Florida. If you have a concealed carry permit in Florida, you're able to carry it in 98% or so of the state. And yet, when all these attacks occur, they keep on occurring in those tiny areas within the state where people aren't allowed to carry. And the same thing is true for the rest of the country.
Do you sense that you're losing support, perhaps in the White House? Donald Trump seems to have shifted his position on gun control.
Look, the point of the academics that we're involved with is to try to find policies that can save lives. And we'll speak out on that. But, you know, I can imagine that, sure, people want to go and do things to go and make themselves feel better. But you know, take one of these policies here, raising the age of buying a gun to 21. You know, what about a 20-year-old woman who's being stalked? What advice are you going to give her now to be able to go and protect herself? Women tend to be relatively small and relatively weaker physically than men are. So you have some male who's stalking her. The police going to protect her all the time? You have a restraining order that's going to actually stop the person and not just deal with it after the fact? If you're serious about it, you need to go and look at the research. And what you find is that by far the safest course of action for a woman to take when she's attacked by a criminal is to have a gun. It has the biggest effect in terms of her ability to go and protect herself. And so now we're talking about, look, we have a 19-year-old who killed people. That's horrible. And we need to try to figure out what to do. And I suggested one thing already to deal with that. But go and disarm other good, law-abiding people as a solution isn't a solution.
Is there any middle ground here? I mean, a political deal will have to be done. Can you ever do a deal with those people who want to see America disarmed?
Well, I've made many suggestions. My approach has always been, look, if you really want these background checks on private transfers, they could get it passed today if they wanted to do it. There's just a couple simple changes that they would make. And one is, if you look at the background checks, they keep on saying 3 million dangerous, prohibited people have been stopped from buying guns because of background checks. That's a lie. What they should say is that there have been 3 million denials, and something around 99% plus of those have been mistakes. You know, it's one thing to stop somebody who is a name, stop a felon. It's another thing to stop somebody simply because they have a name similar to a felon from buying a gun. And it could be easily fixed. You just have to use all the information that's in the form that you fill out, rather than looking at phonetically similar names, look at the person's exact name, include their address, include their social security number, and you wouldn't have those mistakes. All you'd have to do is have the government abide by the same rules that the government demands that private companies abide by when they do background checks on employees.
John Lott
but
in
yet
Washington.
They won't do that.
We're out of time. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time.